And now the news in detail. President Rajapaksa issues instructions to implement development programs safeguarding regional cultural values. The instructions were issued at a meeting on the Galle City Accelerated Development Project at Temple Trees. The desire of the plan is to make the historic Galle City a more attractive and economically beneficial town. The President allocated 100 million rupees for the development program in the last budget. Galle District Secretary Ashoka Jayasekara apprised the President of the plan. It includes a shopping complex at Karapitiya, a shopping and office complex at Orapuatta, and a new bus stand in addition to developing the coastal belt. A coastal park will also come up, and boat tours are planned to give an impetus to the tourism industry. The President observed that development should take place, maintaining the ancient values of the city. The Galle Municipal Council will implement the plan under the aegis of the Urban Development Authority. The President handed over the plan to Galle Mayor Metsuri De Silva. The gallant soldiers have succeeded in entering the Puthukudi town limits after heavy fighting. Our representative Anuradha Dorakumbara, reporting from the forward defence line in the location, said the troops of the 58th Division achieved another milestone by entering the borders of Puthukudi town today, putting the LTTE into jeopardy. The terrorists are restricted only to Puthukudi East. It was after inflicting heavy damages on the terrorists that the troops entered the town limits. All LTTE leaders have entered the battlefield with the purpose of holding on to Puthukudi East and Challai. The 58th Division breached the bund located in Devipuram after a face-to-face battle. Prime Minister Ratnasiri Wickramanayake has reiterated that there will be no cessation of hostilities until LTTE terrorism is routed. He said it is true that they have reached the final step in the elimination of terrorism. He stressed that everyone should be highly vigilant at this time. Certain countries are of the view that an immediate ceasefire should be declared. The conflict will never end without crushing the terrorists. The Prime Minister was speaking at a ceremony organized to donate a consignment of goods collected by the people of Horana and Ingiriya for the benefit of the gallant soldiers. The handing over of these goods to the soldiers took place at his office. Horana SLFP Chief Organizer Vidura Wickramanayake presented it to the Prime Minister, who in turn handed it over to the Army Chief of Staff, Major General N. Vijay Singha. Still on local news, the United Nations and the European Union have called on the LTTE to disarm and renounce violence. Minister Mahinda Samarasinghe, in a special statement on this demand, said the European Union has also endorsed that a ceasefire is possible only if the LTTE disarms. It has said that the LTTE should renounce violence and stop conscripting child soldiers. The entire world has accepted that the LTTE is still enlisting child soldiers. Not a single bullet will be fired if the LTTE disarms. Minister Samarasinghe emphatically stated that the government is carrying out the humanitarian operation against the LTTE and not against the civilians. The French police have apprehended 6 LTTE cadres linked to the murder of a police officer. The related police officer had queried from these terrorists when they were raising funds on a Saturday night. Thereafter, they had grabbed the firearm of the officer and killed him. Later, the firearm was found in a dustbin. French President Nicolas Sarkozy has emphasized that this was a serious incident reported in his country. He gave orders to law enforcement authorities to initiate stern action against these terrorists after a streamlined inquiry. The French police said there is a female cadre among the 6 terrorists apprehended. The government is doing its maximum to maintain civilian life in liberated areas sans any problems. All required food commodities are being dispatched. The World Food Programme had given 7,600 metric tons of food under an emergency program last month alone to meet the needs of the civilians in this area. Terrorists interrupted the supply of emergency food. However, under the instructions of the senior presidential advisor and parliamentarian Basil Rajapaksa, the Essential Services Commissioner released 350 metric tons of food daily, surmounting all these challenges. Also, the Essential Services Commissioner maintained a buffer stock of 350 metric tons to be used during an emergency. In addition, the government met the other needs of the civilians, avoiding any breakdown. A national policy on foreign employment has been formulated. It is another pledge given in the Mahinda Chintana. The release of the national policy took place under the patronage of Minister Kelly Ramukwala. The minister said it is their responsibility to provide complete security to the mother, a sister, or another female who would be leaving this country. He said that the leader of this country is not a person who bows down before money. It should be clearly stated that the country and the women will not be betrayed for wealth. He said that a few people cannot be permitted to set up organizations and engage in these activities. Work at the Inland Revenue Department, damaged due to a crash of the terrorist airplane, has returned to normality. Minister Ranjit Siambalapitiya said the department is discharging the services of taxpayers. The minister said the work returned to normality under the President's guidance. All arrangements had been made to serve the taxpayers at the first floor of the building. Several government buildings had been identified to operate the other divisions. The minister monitored the work of the department this morning. He visited all divisions and instructed officials on future operations. Our correspondent was available to witness the presence of a large number of taxpayers this morning with the resumption of the services. A U.S. Defense Department review of conditions at Guantanamo Bay detention camp has called for an easing of the isolation of prisoners there. The Pentagon report says inmates should be allowed more social interaction and opportunities for recreation. It comes as the new U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder pays his first visit to the controversial facility in Cuba. Last month, President Barack Obama ordered the Guantanamo Bay camp to be closed within 1 year. About 250 prisoners are still held there, nearly all without charge. Among them was a UK inmate who returned from the camp to Britain earlier on Monday. Ethiopian-born Binya Mohammed, 30, was held in Guantanamo for more than 4 years and says he was tortured. He became the first Guantanamo prisoner released since Barack Obama took office. The report says conditions at the camp comply with Geneva Conventions on treatment of prisoners. However, it recommends allowing more socialization among prisoners, many of whom are confined to their cells for 23 hours a day. That's all the news that we have for you today. Thank you for joining us. Good night.